Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel, where we're currently looking at the essential services provided by community pharmacy. Last week, we looked at dispensing medicines and briefly touched on dispensing appliances. Today, we'll be looking at repeat dispensing, one of the more misunderstood essential services. So let's try to clear this up, shall we? Let's start by comparing the green prescriptions that we saw in the first video with the white piece of paper you may often see attached to a prescription. This white paper is a repeat slip or docket. It is not a prescription in itself, but a request for a prescription. It varies slightly depending on your surgery, but the idea is the same. There are items that you're allowed to request a certain number of times without needing to see the doctor again. Some repeats tell you how many times you can order it before needing a review. Quite often you can take these forms to a nearby pharmacy, where you mark the items you need and the pharmacy can, on your behalf, take it to the surgery to process the request. In many pharmacies that process these requests, they don't need the physical docket, just a few details from you and the medication you need, depending on how the pharmacy and the surgery operate. As well as in the pharmacy, often you can order these repeat items by phone or online or by other methods. Different surgeries have different turnaround times as to how long it would take to complete the request. These requests get sent to the doctor to be processed as a green prescription and signed. Often, attached to this freshly printed prescription is an up-to-date repeat list, updating how many more times you can request the medication before needing to contact the doctor for a review. What I've just described, the process of requesting the repeats, is not an essential service. It isn't part of the NHS contract. Not all pharmacies have to do this, and not all of them do it. This process is a non-NHS service, but it is something you'll find many pharmacies do offer with their nearby surgeries. I explain this first so that it doesn't get confused with the service that all pharmacies are contracted to provide, known as batch repeat dispensing. So what is repeat dispensing? Well, repeat dispensing involves green prescriptions similar to those in the first video, but that look something like this. The idea behind them is, the repeat process we mentioned earlier for regular medication can be quite a tedious process, especially if the patient needs the same items every month and is stable on those doses. It involves putting through the request, waiting for the prescriptions to be issued and then signed by the doctors, and in many cases waiting for a pharmacy to collect it. For patients, which are probably the majority who are on regular medication and don't need many changes, repeat dispensing offers an alternative way that can save the prescriber's time. While the initial setup of it can take a while, once done the prescriber then only needs to sign the one form, known as the repeat authorizing or RA form. They can then issue a batch of several prescriptions known as the RD forms in one go. This batch then goes to the patient's chosen pharmacy, who keep the whole lot. Then it is the pharmacy who take the responsibility of storing these batch prescriptions in a safe place, and as well as dispensing the medicines, there are additional requirements, such as checking in on the patient to see if the medication is still needed when they collect, and communicating with the doctor if there are any issues of clinical significance. So, when a patient doesn't need regular reviews or changes in their medicines, this can save a lot of time for GPs for repeat prescriptions, and minimise waste for items not required by the patient. Now, I mentioned in the last video that the system in England commonly uses electronic prescriptions, known as the Electronic Prescription Service or EPS, more so than paper prescriptions. The principle of the repeat dispensing remains the same, but rather than the batches being printed and sent to the chosen pharmacy, this all gets done electronically in areas where EPS is operating. Again, electronic prescriptions have a bit more to it than that, which will hopefully make more sense as time goes on. In Wales, there's no facility for electronic prescriptions as of yet, only the physical ones as mentioned, which tend to have barcodes on them. The goal in both cases is the same. Here, the role of the pharmacy is to alleviate some of the pressure from the doctors. It allows the pharmacy to be more in control of its own systems once they've received the batch. Especially in cases like the recent coronavirus outbreak, this can have advantages, saving a lot of time in chasing prescriptions and waiting for them to be signed and collecting them. I hope this goes some way in trying to make sense of the difference between the repeat forms and the essential service of repeat dispensing. Thanks again for watching this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment and I will do my best to try to explain. As always, if you could like, share and subscribe, that would be fantastic. And hopefully, I'll see you next week.